The challenge. Alex Carter walked through the bright halls of the Galactic Unity Station with wide eyes. It was his first time outside the solar system, and everything felt like a dream. Tall aliens with glowing skin walked beside tiny creatures that floated in the air. Lights changed colors above him, and languages mixed like music in his ears. He was here as an engineer from Earth, just to fix a few systems on the station. But curiosity pulled him deeper into the alien markets and entertainment zones. That's when he saw it. A huge crowd gathered around a glowing arena. Bright holograms danced in the air. On a giant screen, 2 alien names flashed in red and blue. Loud cheers echoed through the dome. Alex stepped closer, trying to understand what was happening. A short alien with 4 eyes noticed him. "Human, want to try the game?" it asked, grinning. Alex blinked. "Game?" "Yes, reflex and focus challenge. Very popular. You look quick. Want to try?" Alex had always been a gamer back on Earth. If this was just a reflex game, he figured he'd do fine. Plus, the crowd made it look fun. He laughed and nodded. "Sure, I'm in." The alien tapped a screen. "Excellent. You play against Jyla, the current champion." "Jyla?" Alex asked. The alien pointed behind him. The crowd suddenly became quiet. Out of the shadows stepped a tall warrior with silver armor and glowing blue eyes. Her body moved like a panther, silent and strong. Tattoos covered her arms, and her long black hair was braided like ropes. That was Jyla. She looked at Alex like he was already defeated. "I don't want to fight," Alex said quickly, raising his hands. "I thought it was just a game." "It is a game," she replied coldly. "One you will lose." Before Alex could back out, the crowd cheered louder. A platform rose beneath his feet and pushed him toward the arena. On the other side, Jyla stepped onto her platform too. A voice boomed from the walls. "Welcome to the reflex duel. New challenger, human from Earth." "Wait, what are the rules?" Alex asked, panic rising in his chest. "Touch the lights before your opponent," the system replied. "Missed 3 in a row. Game over." "Got it," Alex said. "Easy." The floor lit up. Circles of light appeared on the walls and floor. The moment a light flashed, both players had to hit it as fast as possible. Jyla moved like lightning, graceful and fast. Alex managed to keep up for the first few rounds. But the speed increased. Jyla hit every light with deadly accuracy. Alex missed one, then another. His hands started to sweat. The crowd was chanting her name. One more miss, and it would be over. Alex reached out too late. The final light disappeared before he touched it. Game over. The lights shut off. The platform lowered. The crowd roared with excitement. Some aliens clapped. Others laughed. Alex stepped off the stage, breathing hard. "Okay, that was harder than I thought." Jyla walked toward him. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just said, "You belong to me now." Alex froze. "What? What do you mean?" "The rules are simple," Jyla said. "According to Threxian battle tradition, the loser of a public duel becomes the property of the winner for 1 cycle. Cycle? What cycle?" 70 days, she answered. "You are mine until then." Alex looked around, expecting someone to tell him it was a joke, but the announcer confirmed it. Claim accepted. Threxian warrior Jyla now holds bond rights to human Alex Carter. Transfer complete. Alex's jaw dropped. "Wait, no, I didn't agree to that." Jyla turned and walked away. "Follow. Do not make this harder." Alex had no choice. The crowd parted as the human followed the warrior through the busy station. Some aliens looked amused. Others nodded in respect. Alex muttered to himself, "I just wanted to try a game." Jyla didn't speak again until they reached her ship docked at the side of the station. It was sharp, dark, and shaped like a blade in space. The doors opened with a hiss. She looked at him over her shoulder. From now on, your life is tied to mine. Do not dishonor me." Alex stepped inside, still stunned. He had no idea what kind of world he was walking into or what Shyla truly wanted. All he knew was one little game had just changed everything. The claim. Alex Carter sat silently in the corner of the alien ship. The walls around him pulsed faintly, as if the ship itself was alive. The door had sealed behind him, and now he was trapped on board a warship with a tall, silent warrior who claimed him like he was a prize. He stared at the strange, smooth panels beside him. They had no buttons, no screens, just glowing patterns that changed colors. It was beautiful and terrifying. Shyla stood in the center of the control chamber, not looking at him. Her back was straight, her armor still shining from the earlier battle. She typed commands into the ship's interface, using hand gestures Alex didn't understand. The vessel hummed softly, detaching from the station and drifting into open space. Finally, after what felt like an hour, she turned. "You're not very strong," she said calmly, "but you have quick eyes. Not bad for a Terran." "Thanks," Alex said with a raised brow. "Also, what the hell is a Terran? You mean human, right?" Shyla studied him for a moment. "You speak too casually. Do all Earthlings talk like this?" "Only the cool ones," Alex muttered. She ignored that. "Let me explain your situation clearly. You lost in a public combat challenge, and Phyrexian law is very strict about the outcome. You now owe me a bond cycle." Alex crossed his arms. "Look, no offense, but I didn't agree to be claimed by some 7-foot-tall alien warrior lady. I thought it was a fun arcade game." She frowned. "Phyrexian dual arenas are sacred. We do not play for fun. Your ignorance does not change the law." He rubbed his face. "So what exactly does this bond cycle mean? Am I your slave?" Shyla's expression shifted, almost like she was offended. "No, not a slave. A bondservant." "Oh, well, that's so much better," Alex replied, voice full of sarcasm. "So what? I clean your ship, make your coffee, polish your armor." Shyla took a step forward. "You serve with honor. It is a test of character, for both of us." Alex looked at her. "You actually believe in this stuff?" Shyla didn't answer for a moment. Then she said softly, "On Phyrexia, honor is our backbone. Without it, we are nothing. You may think this is a joke, but for my people, it is life." Alex suddenly felt bad. She wasn't being cruel. She was following a culture he didn't understand. Still, it didn't make things easier. "So what happens if I refuse?" he asked. She turned away. "If you run, I lose my honor. If I lose honor, I lose command. My enemies will use it against me. And you, well, your species will be banned from future alliances." Alex blinked. "Wait, you're saying if I don't follow alien law, I might ruin Earth's chances at peace with the galactic community?" Shyla nodded. "Exactly." Alex sighed and leaned back against the wall. "Great, so I'm stuck playing Space Pet for 70 days. Shyla walked to a nearby panel and pressed her hand against it. A small side room opened. Inside, there was a glowing bed, clean clothes folded neatly, and food on a tray, alien food. But it smelled. "Okay. This is your chamber," she said. "You will not be locked in. I am not your jailer." Alex stepped inside slowly. It was small, but clean and quiet. Better than he expected. "Do you treat all your bondservants this way?" he asked. "I've never had one before," Shyla replied. "You are the first." Alex paused. "Really?" She nodded. "You surprised me. Your movements were strange, unrefined, but creative. I have never fought someone with your kind of instinct." He almost smiled. "So I'm clumsy, but unpredictable." "Yes," she said, "like a wild cub trying to fight a fire beast." "Charming image." Shyla tilted her head. "You are not what I expected from a human." Alex turned serious. And what did you expect? She thought for a moment. Weak, loud, simple. Ouch, he said. We're not all like that, you know. She gave a small smile. Her first. I'm beginning to see that. There was a pause. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It felt curious, even thoughtful. Jayla reached for something on her belt. She pulled out a small metal crystal, shaped like a triangle, glowing faintly blue. She held it out. This is the bond mark, she said. Wear it. It is proof that you are under my protection. Without it, other species might not respect your claim. Alex took it slowly. It was warm to the touch. He placed it on his chest, and it gently attached to his shirt like a magnet. Suddenly, the ship's AI spoke in a calm voice. Bond recognized. Human Alex Carter is now linked to Commander Jayla of House Taraka. Status: Protected Companion. Alex looked up. Protected Companion, huh? Jayla looked directly at him. Yes, as long as you are under my care, no one may harm you. Alex's thoughts spun in every direction. A day ago, he was on a boring mission to fix station lights. Now he was legally bonded to an alien warrior, on a warship speeding into deep space. And the strangest thing, he wasn't afraid anymore. He was curious. The escape and the test. Alex Carter sat on the edge of the soft alien bed, turning the small glowing triangle over in his hands. The bond crystal was light, almost like a feather, but it felt heavy on his chest. Heavy with meaning. Heavy with rules he didn't agree to. Heavy with a life he never chose. His room on Jayla's ship was comfortable, too comfortable. The air smelled faintly of mint and metal. The lights shifted depending on his mood. The bed adjusted to the curve of his body. Even the food delivered 3 times a day was hot and strangely tasty. But it wasn't home. And he wasn't free. Jayla was kind enough, not cruel or controlling. She even asked his opinion sometimes, but Alex still couldn't accept being someone's bond servant. That word crawled under his skin like ants. He had to leave, even if just to prove he could. So that night, Alex made a plan. He studied the ship's systems, quietly watching how the doors opened, how the panels responded to voice commands. Jayla had said she wouldn't lock him in, but that didn't mean she expected him to leave. She trusted him, and that was exactly why he thought it would work. The attempt. Hours later, long after the ship lights dimmed and the corridors grew quiet, Alex slipped out of his room. He moved slowly, keeping close to the walls. The ship felt alive, organic and warm, with silent pulses running through the floor. He reached the main corridor and spotted the docking bay door glowing faintly. "That's it," he whispered. He tapped the control panel beside the door. It didn't respond. He tried again, mimicking the hand gestures he'd seen Jayla use earlier. Nothing. Then the soft voice of the ship's eye echoed around him. Unauthorized access attempt detected. Alex jumped. No, cancel that. But the AI continued, notifying Commander Jayla. Great, Alex muttered. Now I'm a space criminal. Behind him, the sound of footsteps echoed. He turned, and there she was. Jayla stood tall, wearing a dark robe over her armor, her eyes glowing in the dim hallway. She looked calm, but disappointed. You tried to run, she said simply. Alex raised his hands. Look, I know how this looks. It looks like dishonor, she interrupted. No, Alex said quickly. It looks like fear. I'm not a soldier. I'm not part of this warrior code. I'm just a guy who wanted to play a game and got pulled into something way bigger than he understood. Jayla didn't move. Then explain. Why run now? Alex hesitated, then said, because I don't want to be a pet. I don't want to be someone's prize, even if you treat me well. There was silence. Then she sighed and gestured to follow her. The game of equals. They entered a room Alex hadn't seen before. It was large and circular, with soft red lights and a table in the middle. On the table were dozens of alien objects. Some looked like stones, others like glowing marbles. "This is my private training chamber," Jyla said. "This is where I test strategy, reflex, and patience." Alex looked around. "What is this place? Really?" Jyla sat across from him at the table. "This is where I choose my equals." Alex blinked. "Your equals?" She nodded. "On Phyrexia, warriors bond with those who challenge them, not just in combat, but in thought. You ran tonight, yes, but you also made it past 2 secure doors. You learned how to read our panels. You adapted. That is rare." Alex smiled nervously. "So what now? You challenge me to another alien game." "No," she said. "You choose the game this time. Earth rules. Something you're good at." Alex thought for a moment, then grinned. "Chess." Jyla looked confused. "Explain." Alex pulled up a holoboard on the table and quickly built the pieces using the digital controls. "It's a strategy game. No weapons, no speed, just the mind." She nodded. "Very well." They played. At first, Jyla was terrible. She moved pieces randomly, not understanding traps or tactics. But she learned quickly, shockingly fast. By the second match, she was already blocking Alex's early attacks. By the third, she nearly beat him. "You learn fast," Alex said, impressed. "So do you?" Jyla replied. There was a long pause between them as they reset the board. Jyla spoke softly this time. "You are not a pet. You are not a servant. I claimed you because I felt something different, something I couldn't name." Alex leaned back. "You could have told me that before putting a crystal on my chest." She smiled faintly. "I thought I did. I'm still learning how to speak with humans." Alex looked at her, really looked this time. Not just the warrior armor or glowing tattoos. Not just the alien code of honor. But the woman behind all that. Someone raised to fight, to win, to protect her people. And maybe, just maybe, someone who was as lonely as he was. An unexpected bond. "I'm not saying I want to stay forever," Alex said slowly. "But maybe I can stay a little longer. Not as a bondservant. As a guest." Jyla nodded. "Then let us make a new deal. No bond, no chains. Just a promise to challenge each other." Alex smiled. "Deal." As they stood, the ship's ag chimed again. "Commander Jyla. Urgent message from High Threxian Council. Enemy fleet approaching. Warlord Dren has issued a challenge for your title and leadership." Jyla's smile faded. Her voice turned cold. "Dren has always wanted my position." Alex stepped beside her. "Who's Dren?" "A powerful warrior. If I lose, he takes everything. My ship, my people, even you." Alex frowned. "You think he'd actually try to take me?" Jyla met his eyes. "He would, as a way to insult me." Alex paused, then grinned. "Well, guess we'd better make sure you don't lose." She looked at him with something close to admiration. "You're staying." "For now," he said. "Just don't expect me to clean your ship." Trouble in the stars. The Threxian warship, Vornix, drifted through deep space like a silent blade. Inside its core command deck, the calm before the storm had ended. Red lights blinked across the control panels. Tactical maps filled the holographic screens, showing approaching enemy vessels in triangular red symbols. The enemy fleet was smaller, but faster, aggressive, and bold. Warlord Dren was coming. Alex stood beside Jyla on the bridge, watching alien symbols flicker across the screen. He didn't understand the language, but he understood the tension in the air. Every crew member moved quickly, focused, like soldiers trained for war since birth. Jyla didn't speak. Her hands moved with precision, assigning tasks, issuing commands. Her voice was steady, but her jaw was tight. This wasn't just a battle. It was personal. Want to explain what's going on? Alex asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Jyla glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Dren is a Threxian warlord. He used to be my rival during warrior trials. When I claimed my command, he challenged me and lost. Since then, he's waited for a chance to strike again. Alex looked at the screen. And now he thinks claiming me makes you weak. Yes, Jyla said sharply. He believes bonding with a human is a sign that I've grown soft. He's wrong, but he will try to prove it by force. Alex crossed his arms. So he wants your title. And me. Jyla nodded slowly. He sees you as a tool, a way to humiliate me in front of the council. That's flattering, Alex muttered. So how do we stop him? We fight, Jyla said, one-on-one. According to Threxian tradition, leadership is claimed through trial combat. It will be just me and him. Alex's eyes widened. What? You mean no backup, no ships firing lasers, just you and that guy? Yes, Jyla. That's insane. It is our way, she said firmly. Win, and I keep command. Lose, and I lose everything, including you. Whispers among warriors. Later, in the strategy chamber, Alex watched the Threxian crew whisper among themselves. Some looked worried. Others looked angry. One large warrior with a scar running down his cheek stepped forward and bowed. Commander, he said in deep, rumbling tones, we stand with you, but many fear the match. Dren has been training with forbidden techniques. Jyla narrowed her eyes. Forbidden? The warrior nodded. He has been enhanced. Biowired with illegal implants. Fast, strong, inhuman. Alex clenched his fists. You're fighting a cheater. No, Jyla said coldly. I'm fighting a coward. But Alex saw the flicker of worry behind her calm exterior. Human strategy. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He sat alone in the observation deck, watching stars drift past. The void outside looked peaceful, but he knew war was coming. He hated the idea of Jyla going into a fight alone, especially one she might not survive. He tapped the glowing crystal on his chest, the one that marked him as hers. I never asked for this, he whispered, but I can't just watch you get killed. Then suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. Something from Earth, a strategy, a trick used in human games. He rushed to the training room and began sketching on a holopad. The morning before battle, Jyla entered the chamber the next morning dressed in black ceremonial armor, different from before, sleek, curved, and sharper around the shoulders. Her eyes were focused. She carried 2 blades, short, curved, glowing with blue plasma. Alex approached her with urgency. I have a plan, he said. She raised an eyebrow. Your escape plan failed, remember. This isn't an escape, it's strategy, he said. Back on Earth, we have something called pattern breaks in combat games. If your opponent expects one move, you do the opposite. It throws them off, makes them hesitate. Jyla looked intrigued. Go on. You said Dren thinks you've gone soft, right? Use that. Play into it. Let him believe he's winning. Show weakness. Then, strike. Jyla nodded slowly. Deception through performance. Exactly, Alex said. Humans do it all the time. In games, business, even war. Jyla smiled for the first time that day. You're smarter than you look. Alex gave her a look. And you're scarier than you act. She laughed, a real one this time, a soft sound that echoed through the cold walls. Then her smile faded. If I fall, Alex, run. Take the ship's escape pod. Go back to Earth. Promise me. Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. I'm not going anywhere. The arena of blood and stars. The battle took place on a neutral moon. A silent rock floating in the darkness. A huge circle was carved into the ground, glowing with blue fire. Around it, Phyrexian warships hovered like dark sentinels, casting shadows across the dust. In the center, Xyla stood tall. Dren entered from the other side, twice her size, with thick silver armor and dark red markings across his chest. His arms were covered in pulsing cybernetic wires. His eyes glowed yellow, artificial, and cold. The crowd of Phyrexians watched from ships and holoscreens across the system. The voice of the council judge echoed, "Begin the trial." The two warriors moved like lightning. Xyla danced around Dren's heavy strikes, parrying and dodging. He was fast, but reckless. His strength was monstrous, smashing into the ground with each missed blow. Xyla let herself fall back once, then again. To the audience, it looked like she was losing. Alex watched from a safe distance, heart pounding. Come on, just like we planned." Dren grinned, thinking victory was near. He lunged in for a final blow. Xyla dropped to one knee. Then she spun. Her blade slashed across his chest in a blur of blue light, cutting through his cybernetic armor and wires. Sparks flew. Dren roared in pain. Before he could recover, Xyla rose and delivered a crushing kick to his neck. He collapsed. Silence fell. Then the judge's voice rang out. "Victory. Commander Xyla of House Taraka." Aftermath. Back on the ship, Xyla stood in front of her crew. They saluted her, proud, loyal, and loud. But when she saw Alex waiting quietly at the side, she walked straight to him. "You saved me," she said softly. "No," Alex replied. "You saved yourself. I just gave you an idea." Xyla held out her hand. He took it. "I never needed a servant," she said. "I needed a mind that saw differently. Someone who fights, without fighting." Alex grinned. "You needed a gamer." She chuckled. Perhaps. The bond between them had changed. No longer warrior and prize. No longer captor and captive. They were something new. Battle and revelation. The alert blinked across the command deck like a quiet alarm bell. Incoming transmission. High Council emergency. Human presence aboard a Phyrexian warship is under investigation. Alex looked at Xyla, confused but calm. "What does that mean?" Xyla's face, usually unreadable, was suddenly tense. She didn't respond right away. Her eyes flicked over the command screen as her crew fell silent, waiting. Then, she said quietly, "It means we're not done fighting." A shimmering hologram opened in the center of the deck. 5 figures in ceremonial robes, each glowing a different color, appeared, members of the Phyrexian High Council, the ruling body of their warrior empire. Their expressions were hard. Their voices blended into one, like many drums speaking as one mind. "Commander Xyla of House Taraka, you have claimed victory over Warlord Dren. This is acknowledged." Xyla bowed her head slightly. "Yes, Council. However, we must now question your recent bond to a human. You have claimed a non-militarized species as a protected companion. This is unprecedented." Xyla's jaw tightened. It was according to tradition. "I followed the bond law, as written." "Indeed. But tradition was meant for warriors, not off-worlders. The Council requires proof that this human is not a weakness, nor a political tool. If you cannot prove this, your leadership will be revoked." Alex stepped forward before Xyla could speak. "Okay, look, maybe I'm not from a warrior race, but I helped her. I supported her through a fair fight. I gave her a strategy that saved her life." The council did not respond. Then one of them said slowly, "Then let the human prove his value. A challenge of mind, a test of loyalty." Xyla turned sharply. "You would make him fight?" "Not with blades," the council said. "With truth and betrayal." The test. Hours later, Alex sat alone in a dark chamber, round, cold, and hollow. The only light came from the center of the floor, where a glowing chair stood. Around him, invisible watchers. council members, and AI. Listened. It wasn't just a room. It was a trial. A smooth voice filled the room. You are Alex Carter of Earth. Non-military. Civilian. You were claimed by Xyla under bond law. Confirm. Alex nodded. Yes. Do you love her? The question hit him like a punch. Love, he echoed, caught off guard. I don't know. She's not what I expected. She's strong, brave, kind under all that armor. She listens, she learns. I respect her. Respect is not love. Alex sat quietly. Maybe not, but it's the start. Another voice whispered, then prove it. Betray her. His head shot up. What? We offer you escape. A diplomatic pass back to Earth. Freedom from the bond. In return, you must speak one truth that damages her claim to leadership. Alex stared at the glowing floor. His heart beat loud in his ears. She trusts me, he said softly. Then let us see if that trust was earned. He remembered her words. You are not my servant. I need a mind that sees differently. He clenched his fists. Then slowly he stood. No, he said. Repeat. No, Alex said louder. I won't betray her. If that means losing my freedom, fine. But I'm not a coward. Silence. Then, without warning, the room dissolved into light, and the walls faded. Chyla was there, standing behind a transparent panel. She had heard everything. For the first time, her face showed something raw. Emotion, deep and clear. Relief and pride. Unseen enemies. Later that day, back aboard the ship, Xyla invited Alex into her private quarters. It was the first time he'd seen the space where she truly lived. Unlike the cold metal of the rest of the ship, her quarters were filled with strange plants in glass globes. The walls glowed with soft violet light. There were carvings, personal items, memories. It felt more like a sanctuary than a room. Xyla poured 2 small cups of thick blue liquid and handed one to Alex. He sniffed it. Is this safe? It's Threxian honor brew, she said. We drink it to seal trust. He raised the cup. Then cheers, Commander. She smiled. Just Xyla. They drank. After a moment of quiet, Xyla sat beside him. You could have walked away, she said. You could have left me, returned to your world, and never looked back. Alex stared at the stars through the wide glass window. Yeah, but I would have always wondered what you did next. Xyla turned to him. You are not what I expected from a human. He laughed. You say that a lot. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Then, an explosion rocked the corridor outside. Xyla stood immediately, voice sharp. Security breach, Deck 3. They rushed to the hallway. Smoke poured through the vents. Alien weapons fired in short bursts. Xyla's crew had been ambushed. From the smoke emerged strange figures, unmarked, armored soldiers with no Threxian symbols. Their armor was dark, faces hidden behind insect-like masks. Who are they? Alex asked. Xyla drew her blades. Not mine. Not Threxian. Assassins. They fought together, Xyla slicing through enemy lines with terrifying grace, and Alex using a discarded pulse rifle to cover her back. He wasn't a soldier, but he wasn't helpless anymore. Eventually, the attackers retreated, vanishing into the smoke like ghosts. Chyla stood over a wounded crew member. Her eyes were cold. This was no random attack, she said. Someone wanted me dead. Alex looked at her. You think the council sent them? Chyla nodded slowly. There are factions who don't want Threxians bonding with outsiders. They want war, not unity. Alex's voice dropped. So this wasn't about honor. This was a message. Yes, she said. And they made a mistake. New strength. In the aftermath, the crew gathered in the central hall. Chyla addressed them all. Strong, commanding, unshaken. There are those who fear change, she said. They sent shadows to break us. But we are still standing, and we are stronger because we do not fight alone anymore. She turned and looked at Alex. He may not be Threxian, but he stood beside me. And in doing so, he became more than a bondmate. He became part of our house. The crew stomped in approval. Threxian applause. Alex felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He belonged. Choices and chains. The message from Earth Command repeated again on the screen, cold and precise. Immediate recall ordered. Subject: Alex Carter. Reason: unauthorized bond with alien combatant. Alliance risk high. Alex stared at it, not blinking. Behind him, the warship Vornix hummed gently, like it always did in quiet moments. But this silence felt different, heavy. For weeks, this ship had become his strange new home. And now, Earth wanted him back. Not to thank him, not to understand him, but to isolate him. Shyla stood near the command console, arms folded tightly. Her expression was unreadable, but Alex could feel the storm inside her. He had learned to read her eyes, the way they tightened when she felt cornered, the way she held her breath when trying not to speak too soon. "They're scared," Alex said softly. "Yes," Shyla replied. "And fear makes even smart leaders act like fools. They think I'm a security threat." "You're not," she said. "You're just different now." Alex turned toward her. "So am I dangerous to you?" Shyla shook her head slowly. "No, Alex, you are dangerous for me. That's why I need you." Earth's ultimatum. The next morning, Earth Command connected through a secure line. A stiff-faced official in a gray suit appeared on the holoscreen. "Alex Carter," he began, voice flat, "you are instructed to return to Earth immediately. Your interactions with the Threxian warrior, known as Shyla, have been deemed diplomatically inappropriate and technologically compromising." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Compromising? You've had access to alien systems, military movements, cultural tactics. You've shared Earth origin data without clearance. You've entered a combat situation under no official sanction." "Because I was trying to stay alive," Alex said. The man didn't flinch. "Intentions are irrelevant. What matters is containment. Return now, and your record stays clean. Refuse, and we can't guarantee your safety or your citizenship." Shyla stepped into view beside Alex. "You threaten him with chains and call it protection." The man looked directly at her. "We are protecting our people from unnecessary entanglements." Shyla's tone darkened. "And we protect ours by honoring loyalty." The screen went dark. The pressure builds. In the following days, Alex felt eyes on him everywhere. Shyla's crew treated him with more respect than ever. Some nodded as he passed. Others asked his opinion during training simulations. He'd helped Shyla rebuild parts of the ship's strategy core, even added new Earth-style battle drills into their VR systems. But the unspoken question hung in the air. Would he leave? Shyla didn't ask directly. She never begged. But one night, she walked with him to the observation deck, the same one where he had once stared out and dreamed of going home. "Earth is calling you," she said quietly, her voice like a whisper carried by wind. Alex nodded. "Yeah. Do you want to go?" He stared out at the stars. "I miss Earth things. Rain, coffee, music, people who get my sarcasm." A soft smile touched her lips. "But I also don't know if I belong there anymore," he admitted. "Not after all this." She looked down. "You have no bond mark now. I released it after the council test. You are free to choose." He turned to her. "And what if I choose to stay?" Shyla met his eyes. "Then I will not stop you, but it will not be easy." Betrayal in orbit. Just as Alex was leaning toward staying, betrayal struck from an unexpected source. An Earth shuttle appeared in orbit, requesting permission to dock. It claimed to be a diplomatic envoy. 2 ambassadors sent to discuss terms with Jyla's crew. Jyla allowed them aboard. But it was a trap. The visitors arrived in plain clothes, smiles on their faces, but within hours, they planted a virus in the ship's navigation core. The virus attempted to redirect the warship toward a human-controlled space gate, where Earth's security forces were waiting. Alex discovered the code during a routine systems scan. He confronted the saboteurs just as they tried to leave. "Why?" Alex demanded. "Why betray a peace mission?" One of them, a tall woman with cold eyes, said, "You were never supposed to get this close, Carter. You've made Earth look weak, bonding with a foreign soldier. It's an embarrassment. That foreign soldier saved my life. She owns you." "No," Alex said, voice low. "She respects me. You don't." The virus was stopped. The saboteurs were detained, but the damage was done. The message was clear. Earth didn't just want Alex back. They wanted to erase what he'd become. The final decision. After the sabotage, Jyla met with him privately. No armor, no weapons, just 2 people standing across from each other in her quarters. "You must choose now," she said. "I know." "No pressure from me," she added. "I will survive with or without you." "But do you want me here?" he asked. Her voice didn't change, but her eyes did. "Yes." He took a deep breath. "I think Earth will always see me as part of this mistake," he said. "They won't trust me. And honestly, I don't think I trust them anymore either." Jyla waited. "I don't want to be someone's tool. Not Earth's. Not Phrexia's. I want to help build something new. With you." Jyla stepped closer. "Then we move forward. Together. A new path." Later that day, Jyla stood before her crew and council once more. "I no longer claim Alex Carter as bond servant," she announced, "because now he is something else." She turned to Alex. "From this day forward, he stands as my strategic equal, by my side, not beneath it." Alex raised his chin. He was no longer the guy who stumbled into a space game, no longer the man forced to run. He was part of something now. A partnership. A future. The council did not object. Earth did not approve. But neither could stop what had grown between them. Not a bond by law. A bond by choice. Ending scene. As the Vornik sailed away from the last Earth satellite, Alex stood beside Jyla in the command deck. "You know," he said, "you never actually beat me in chess." Jyla smirked. "Then perhaps it's time for a rematch." He smiled. "Just don't make me yours again if I lose." She turned to him, her voice soft but fierce. "Too late. You were already mine. But now, I am also yours." And for the first time, Alex didn't feel owned. He felt chosen. The new alliance. The Vorniks no longer flew alone. Since the day Alex Carter made his choice, Phyrexian and human eyes had turned toward the stars, not to seek war or separation, but to watch something new being born, something unexpected. An alliance built not through treaties, but through a bond between 2 individuals who refused to obey the old rules. Aboard the warship, the once intimidating Phyrexian warship had changed. Where there were once harsh steel corridors, now glowing guidance strips pulsed gently along the walls, an Earth-inspired idea from Alex to help navigation. Where crew once marched in silence, they now worked in flexible shifts with moments to talk, question, and learn. Another new custom encouraged by Jyla, influenced by human teamwork models. Jyla stood on the main deck, arms behind her back, eyes focused on the floating display in front of her. Planets, routes, diplomats, and names of species who once ignored Phrexians, now asking to open conversation. The sound of footsteps behind her didn't cause her to turn. She knew the rhythm by now. Alex. He carried a tray with 2 cups of human coffee, real beans, grown in orbit over Mars. "Your daily addiction, Commander," he said. She accepted the cup without looking away. "Still bitter?" Still powerful, he replied with a grin. Just like you. They sipped in silence, looking out at the data feed. More systems were requesting contact. More species were asking about Earth, about the human-Phyrexian connection. Shyla tapped one of the messages. They want us to build a joint academy. Alex raised an eyebrow. For what? Strategy, diplomacy, and games. He laughed. Games? They heard you use chess to beat a warlord, she said, lips curving slightly. Alex leaned back. Next time, we'll teach them poker. The academy. Months later, on the moon of Selra Prime, a small neutral world known for its peaceful environment, a new facility rose from the rock and ice. It wasn't a fortress. It wasn't a council chamber. It was an academy. Shyla and Alex stood together at the front of the opening ceremony. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered, some in armor, some in robes, some glowing with energy, others crawling, floating, or gliding on feet made of light. All were watching. Shyla spoke first. Her voice, amplified and calm, filled the air. Strength is not measured only in the blade or the fist. Sometimes, true strength is found in the mind, in the heart, and in the courage to trust someone different. Then Alex stepped up. When I met Shyla, I thought I was just a human who lost a game. Turns out, I was the one who needed to learn. Learn how to listen, to trust, to grow. That's what this place is for. The crowd applauded, not loud or wild, but steady, respectful, hopeful. Old enemies return. But not everyone supported the new path. In the shadows of the galaxy, old powers grew restless. One such force, the Ebon Accord, a militarized empire that thrived on division, sent a warning. They released a transmission. All who ally with the human-Phyrexian pact will be seen as enemies. Surrender the Earthborn strategist, or face erasure. Shyla and Alex received the message in private. It echoed in the dim war room, the air thick with tension. Do they really think we'd hand you over? Shyla asked, voice cold. Alex chuckled. Honestly, they don't know you at all. They fear change, Shyla said. They fear what we represent. Then let's show them something to fear, Alex replied. The strategy that changed the war. Ebon Accord forces attacked outposts and threatened supply routes. But what they didn't expect was the new kind of defense waiting for them. It wasn't brute strength. It wasn't overwhelming firepower. It was Alex. He turned old human games into real-time tactical drills, chess, tower defense simulations, turn-based combat adapted into holographic war strategies. Phyrexian pilots learned to think 3 steps ahead. Alien navigators were trained to analyze probabilities. Even Shyla herself began practicing pattern breaks daily. One of the Accord commanders sent a furious message after losing 3 skirmishes. What kind of strategy is this? Shyla replied, it's called imagination. You should try it. The personal shift. Back on the Vornix, during one of the rare quiet evenings, Alex stood on the top deck watching distant stars through the open observation canopy. The galaxy looked peaceful again. Shyla joined him, her armor removed, wearing simple warrior robes. She stood beside him without speaking. You ever think about how it all started? Alex asked. She looked at him. The game. Yeah, he chuckled. I thought it was just for fun. I didn't even know the rules. I didn't either, she said. But I knew the moment I saw you, something was going to change. He turned to her. You saw that in me. I felt it. You were clumsy, but not afraid. Alex smiled. So, was I yours from the start? Shyla looked up at the stars. You were never mine. You just found your way to me. The ceremony of equals. It was Phyrexian tradition for warriors to declare bonds only once in a lifetime, not as possession, but as a vow of shared purpose. Not many lived long enough to make that vow. But 1 year after they met, in front of 1,000 allies, Shyla and Alex stepped into the circle of equals. There were no flowers, no rings, no music, just silence. Then Shyla spoke. I do not own him. I fight beside him. I learn beside him. I rise with him. Alex answered. She beat me in a game. But in truth, she opened a new world. I never knew how far I could go, until I followed her. Their bond was witnessed by all, official, public, and irreversible. Not as warrior and prize, not as alien and human, but as allies by choice. Legacy begins. In the years that followed, the Academy produced leaders, not conquerors, but peacemakers. Species that once avoided one another now trained side by side. Conflicts that might have become wars were solved through strategy, negotiation, and, occasionally, friendly competition. The name Carter Protocol became standard in galactic negotiation manuals, and Shyla's House of Taraka was redefined, not as the fiercest, but as the wisest. They didn't lose their warrior spirit. They simply grew, together. Years later, on the deck of a newer ship, the Unity Star, Alex stood with gray in his hair and wisdom in his eyes. A young alien cadet approached him. Sir, is it true you were once her servant? Alex laughed softly. No, I was her challenge. And she beat you. He grinned. In the beginning, yeah, but in the end, we both won. The cadet looked confused. Alex winked. Stick around. You'll get it. Behind him, Shyla entered, still tall, still fierce, still smiling only for him. Together, they stepped into a new meeting chamber, another alliance being formed, another future unfolding.